Hi again, everyone, and welcome to this studio cast, Stop Setting Goals and Start Achieving Them 2.0 with Jamar Brown. I'm Jeff Allen from Studio Cast Pros. If you joined us live for Jamar's last studio cast, we're glad to have you back. And if this is your first time watching Jamar, we're glad you're taking some time to join us today. As always, these studio casts will be archived and available for later viewing at studiocastpros.com. If you're watching the stream live, we invite and encourage your participation at any time during the studio cast by submitting your comments and questions via the messaging feature right there on your screen. And if you have any trouble getting those messages to us, you need to send us a note real quickly. All you have to do is just send us a note to info@socalceo.com. Now, as a refresher for some of you, our host Jamar Brown is president of the Kaizen Way. He's an author and highly sought after keynote and motivational speaker who helps individuals and organizations create positive changes for continuous improvement. Jamar, good to see you again.
Jeff, good to see you also.
Thank you so much. Now, you know, last week we had a really great live studio cast where we talked about how to stop setting goals and start achieving them 1.0. Before we get started, though, what I'd really like you to do is just kind of let's reset everything. Let's talk a little bit about you, because if you're going to teach somebody about something, you got to have a little experience to back it up. And I think you got the goods. I mean, you've set a lot of goals. So let's hear a little bit more about you first to get started.
Jeff, that sounds great. And I want to welcome everyone to the studio cast. Thank you very much for those of you that tuned in last Thursday, and for those of you that are coming in for the first time today, thank you very much. Please ask questions. This is interactive. This is live. It's not scripted. Jeff and I are going to sit here and talk, and if you send in questions, Jeff will see them and he'll ask questions of me. So in terms of my background, and I wanted to kind of spend a little bit of time on this, Jeff, because I think it's important for anyone that talks about a subject or a concept or an idea that they have some experience with it and they can show that they have actually done some of the things that they're teaching. And so when you look at my background on the screen, I went to Whittier College and got interested with Allergan Pharmaceuticals after struggling for a couple of years in sales, which is what we'll get into, because I had a goal being the #1 salesperson in the nation. And that goal turned into me being almost fired for poor sales performance, and ultimately changing my process of goal setting, which is what this program is all about. And then becoming a salesperson of the year, and then that went on to having become sales manager of the year, win a number of sales awards, and be the VP of sales at a medical device company at age 30, and then start my own company, and also author 2 books. And so that's a little bit about my background. And the company that I formed is called the Kaizen Way, and Kaizen means continuous improvement. We specialize really in 5 different areas. One is helping organizations build a culture of excellence, because at the end of the day, the experience of the people working in a company relates to the experience that your customers will have. And if you don't have the right culture, you don't have the right experience, it's hard to be successful. So we do a lot of work around that. We also help businesses from a communication standpoint to have excellent communication skills, whether that be with their customers or with their salespeople. We work with salespeople around how to have improved selling skills so they can achieve record-breaking sales results. We work with managers to help them stop managing issues and start leading inspired and productive teams. And I also do one-on-one coaching for people as well. And as I mentioned before, from a sales perspective, I do want to let our viewers know up front that this is a program on goal setting, but we're also going to spend a lot of time starting July 10th with our Summer Sales Success Series. And I'm really excited to present this because it's a 6-part program all around how do you take your current sales results right now and then go to the next level in sales. How do you achieve record-breaking sales results and not just achieve success, but also have fulfillment and enjoyment while you're doing it? And if you look on your screen, it starts July 10th. We'll do 30-minute programs every Thursday. The first one is based on my book, What's Your Sales Story? Then we're going to launch into a Selling in Color workshop, which is based on personality profiles. And then we'll end it with the Kaizen Way of Sales Excellence, which is a program that's proven to help take your sales results to the next level. So these are some of the things that my company does, and I'm really very excited to be here today talking to all of you.
And on top of that, you do some writing too. Talk a little bit about your books.
Yes, I do writing. And I've written 2 books at this point, and this is really interesting, Jeff, because the first book I wrote is on sales. It talks about my experience going from last in the nation, almost getting fired, to becoming salesperson of the year. And that's a book on the left, which is What's Your Sales Story? It's all about going from failure to success in sales. Now, it took me 7 years to write that book. That's an important point around this goal setting process. So kind of keep that number in the back of your mind. My second book, Jeff, which is called You're Ugly, which is always a head turner for people, actually took me about 12 hours to write. So the first book, 7 years. The second book took me literally 12 hours. And it was all about the process I use in terms of setting the goal or not setting the goal to write the first book versus the second book. And it was tremendously different in terms of the results that it generated, in terms of the time it took me to actually write both books.
So one was almost kind of a motivation for writing the other, or inspirational, I guess, in terms of being able to finish something that you started within your lifetime. So it's either way, 7 years or 12 hours or months, either way, it's a lot of time for me. But that's amazing, though, how you could sit down and seriously write a book and have it come so easily to you after that first effort took such a long period of time. So with all that said, let's kind of jump into today's show just a little bit. Give us kind of a glimpse of what we can expect and what we should probably take away in advance. Just kind of set everything up for today.
Okay, so once again, wanted to thank everyone for being on this program. And there are really three things we're going to cover today. The first one is how to get the most out of this program. And what I would like all of you to do is to have this idea of staying neutral. Because sometimes when we think about our goals, we have a lot of angst or frustration about it because we have things that we wanted to achieve or wanted to do that we haven't done. And what I wanted to do on this call for the next, or this studio cast for the next 45, 50 minutes or so, is to basically stay neutral. Look at your past goal achievements or lack thereof as not failure or a lack of achievement, but neutral as a learning experience, because we're going to talk about how do we uncover what got in the way of us achieving our goals. The second thing I want you to really do is enjoy the process today. We're going to have fun. Jeff and I are going to be interactive. I'm not one of those consultants that come in and is all stodgy. I like to have fun because I think being successful should be fun and achieving your goals should be fun. And so engage, ask questions, and we'll definitely be here throughout the entire program to answer questions as they come in. And the final thing is, please share your ideas and thoughts. You can go to Twitter @Jamar_Brown, Facebook page Jamar Brown. Feel free to email me info@thekaizen way, LinkedIn. But I think it's important to kind of share your thoughts and ideas. So with that said, let's talk about the three things we're going to do today. The first one is we're going to review what we learned from the last session. We're not going to go through everything because the program was archived. And for those of you that weren't here for last week's session, we'll make it available on studiocastpros.com for you. The second thing is we're going to dive into the Kaizen way of goal achievement and that whole process. And I'm really excited about that. And the third thing, we're going to talk about the biggest issue that most of us have in terms of achieving our goals in life, which is fear. Fear is the biggest killer of dreams. It's the biggest detriment to success. And I'm going to give you some proven ways on how to eliminate fear and self-doubt from your ambitions. And that sounds pretty good, doesn't it, Jeff?
It sounds great. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of start off with a question that we got from a viewer last week. Okay. It had to deal with the facts about goal setting. Specifically, why do some people feel unfulfilled after actually achieving their goals? I mean, after all, that's what it's all about. It's getting to that milestone and being able to spike the ball when you get to the end zone and say, yeah, man, I've done it. Why is it we sometimes feel unfulfilled?
That's a great question. And there's really two facts around goal setting that I think can help answer that question. The first one is many of us never achieve our goals, and so we live lives of regret, angst, and letdown. And there's a pain that we have inside of us in terms of, I didn't quite do what I wanted to do, or I started something and didn't finish it, or there's something that's been on my mind for months, years, and I haven't gotten started. And so there's this thing inside of us that gets in the way of us moving forward. The second thing that people really don't think about is sometimes when we actually do achieve our goals, we think we're going to be happy and fulfilled, like that the world is all of a sudden going to change. But what we realize, if you look at some of the literature around goal setting and goal achievement, that many people, when they actually do achieve their goals, are not fulfilled. They're actually unhappy. They're not satisfied. They feel like there's still something missing. And we're going to talk about why that is, and that's really important. And it will be answered as we talk about the goal setting process through the Kaizen Way program as we go throughout the show. So the question is, Jeff, to get to your point around why do we sometimes not achieve our goals? And secondly, why do we sometimes, when we do achieve our goals, not feel fulfilled, right? And the question is why? And what I like to do when I work with people is, I'm not going to give you 100 things to do because we have busy lives and families and kids and things to do. So this is not a program, or my company doesn't focus on giving you the 30 steps to goal setting, and you start with step 1, and all of a sudden you realize, well, that's another goal I didn't achieve. I didn't follow the 30 steps. so we're not gonna go there. We're gonna talk about why and identify that what are the key reasons why we haven't achieved our goals, and then why do we feel unfulfilled when we do? And if you can uncover that and get to the heart of the matter, then that is a very first step in terms of breaking free and going after and achieving your goals. So there's something called a root cause analysis. And for those of you that have studied Six Sigma or are in statistics, you understand that really the root cause analysis is how do we get to the bottom of something? How do we get to the root cause of the issue? Like when you go to a doctor and you have these symptoms, runny nose, watery eyes, whatever the case may be, coughing, and I'm thinking of the NyQuil commercial, stuffy head.
Yeah.
But you have all that. You go to the doctor.
Achy fever, so you can rest medicine.
Right. So you go to the doctor,
right.
And really the doctor's main objective is to understand what is the underlying cause of those conditions. And if the doctor can prescribe a treatment regimen or a course of therapy or a prescription that gets to the root cause of the problem, then you really deal with the problem. As opposed to the Band-Aid therapy of let me just take care of your watery eyes, well, they're still itching. Or let me take care of your runny nose, well, now my eyes are still watering. So what is the root cause of us not achieving our goals? And there are a few root causes that I think our viewers can relate to. The first one is we forget our goals. And I told the story of the coyote and the roadrunner last week in terms of the coyote chases the roadrunner. We know this cartoon over and over and over again, but he never catches the roadrunner. But there was one episode in which the coyote actually caught the roadrunner. And when he caught the roadrunner, what did he say? He said, now that I have you, what am I going to do? Sometimes we get so...
What a dumb coyote.
Sometimes we get so caught up in chasing things and chasing a goal that we forget, why do we start this in the first place? And there's no why behind it. The second thing is other people set goals for us. How many of your goals in life are not really the ones you set for yourself, but they're ones that people said you should do? And if you're in sales, you know that your sales manager sets your goals for you and sets your objectives. And so in this situation, we commit to things that we are not willing to fight for. We're not engaged in the process from the start. How about this one, if you can relate? We don't really know or understand how to achieve them. And for some of us, we set goals. We have these ambitions that are these big audacious goals, things we really want to achieve in life, but we don't really know how to achieve them. We don't really know where to get started. And so we might start going down a path and we realize, man, this is a lot more difficult than I signed up for. I didn't know all this was involved. And some of my clients have, wanted to open restaurants or wanted to start their own business. And once they really understand all the things that are involved, they go, wow, I didn't know it was this intense. And sometimes that makes them not want to move forward. And we have this one here. We are not real with ourselves. And this is one of my favorite ones because I talk about people that say they want to get into shape. And every January, people, or every December, people make their New Year's resolutions. And a lot of times it's, I'm going to go to the gym and get in shape. And then for the first 2 months of the year, the gym is crowded. You can't get into your favorite machine. And then by, March, April, it's back to the same people that were there in the previous summer. And I was in that boat. I would tell myself, I want to go to the gym. I want to get in shape. But I would never go. I was still paying the $25 a month membership fee. And I had to get real with myself and really say, Jamar, you really don't want to do that. And sometimes we have to tell ourselves we really don't want to do it. Or the other part of it is we don't have a big enough reason why. We don't have a big enough reason that would get us to take the time to get up in the morning and go to the gym and be on a treatment regimen. And that's a really important word that we're going to come back to.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
All right. Let me break in. Is it always important, Jamar, that we set goals that we want to achieve? Because it's something we love to do or because we want to do it? I mean, aren't there those goals that we may set, not necessarily because we enjoy doing what it is to get to that point, to reach that goal, but it's something that we have to do. Maybe it's because it's something for someone else. What's your thought on that?
Well, and for example, and that's a good point. I look at salespeople. Sales manager sets the salespeople's goals, or the company says these are the quotas we need to hit. And sometimes you look at the number and you go, well, there's no way I can do this, but you're signed up for it. So what I teach people is, if you look at your perspective around that, instead of looking at, well, this is what somebody else set for me, which is one of the reasons why we don't move forward, look at it differently and say, what am I going to get if I really apply myself and go after this? Not looking at what the company is going to get or what my manager is going to receive out of this, but what am I going to get if I actually achieve this? It could be I made enough money to send my child to, private school. I made enough money to purchase my first house. I'm engaged and I made enough money to pay for my engagement. When you have those things, those are called whys in your life. Around any goals that you set, you'll be more motivated to actually do it, even though it may be a goal that wasn't set for you. So there are ways to achieve goals that aren't set for you when you don't have the initial buy-in, to actually get some buy-in around what other people may have set for you.
But it may require a little bit of a little thinking outside of the box, maybe, or kind of expanding beyond your comfort zone, beyond what you might be thinking at the moment. Whereas narrowly, gosh, that sales figure doesn't look attainable, or I don't want to do what's necessary in order to get there. I don't want to go to these live events or these trade shows or whatever I need to do in order to make it happen. So to have a broader picture, to look at things differently, and that can help you kind of see a better, clearer picture for attaining that goal.
Correct.
It can help to motivate you.
Absolutely. And with any one of these reasons why, the process I'm going to take everyone through will help you deal with any root cause reason why you're not achieving your goals. So that will be addressed in the process. Okay. And also, we've heard of a fear of failure. We all know what a failure is. You don't want to embarrass yourself or embarrass your family if you said you're going to do certain things for your family. And so we are afraid to fail, and it's better to sometimes not even try, as opposed to try and have this failure associated with our name. And we've all been there. I've experienced it. Everyone has experienced that. But there's another one that I think we may not have thought about, and that is a fear of success. And it's a really important one, because sometimes if you really get real with yourself and say, sometimes you really don't want to be that successful or have that much notoriety because of all the stuff that comes along with it. There's people that I work with all the time. They just want to lie below the radar. They don't want to be the star. They don't want to be the most successful one in the group, even though they have the ability, because they're afraid of what success.
And some people may not want the responsibilities that come with having that kind of success, the responsibilities to run a business and do what comes with it.
Exactly. So we're going to address that one as well. The final one, which I think is probably the biggest one, and that is, we are not clear on why we established the goal in the first place. And that goes back to what Jeff was asking about. What about goals that aren't set, that we don't set for ourselves, that are set for us, that we still are supposed to achieve? And I'm going to really spend a lot of time today talking about this concept, because with anything that you set out to do in life, from a goal perspective, if your purpose, if your why is not big enough, then it's going to be very difficult to deal with all the work and effort and commitment that's required to achieve it. And so I'm going to ask you in a few minutes to think about the why in your life and associate that with your goals to see if your why is big enough for you to achieve your goals. So the question is, what is at the root cause of your ability or inactivity around your goals, or the fact that you haven't achieved certain goals in the first place? What is at the root cause? Is it a fear of failure, fear of success? Is it the why isn't big enough? Is it we may have forgot them? Is it other people set them for us? We don't have buy-in? Is it we started doing something and didn't understand the amount of work required to do it, and so we kind of took a step back? And that's why it took me 7 years to write my book. When I realized the amount of work required, I stopped. And I will start again, and I stopped. And I'm going to talk to you how I went from starting and stopping to actually completing the first book. So what is at the root cause of your not achieving your goals or even pursuing your goals? So here's the reality of our current situation, because I'm going to talk about a shift in mindset that we're going to need in order to start to achieve our goals. And there's two equations I want to leave in your mind, make an imprint in your minds this morning. One is that our past thoughts plus our past behaviors equal our current results. What you've thought about your goals in the past, what you've done about your goals in the past from a behavior standpoint, have created your current results. And so if we're not achieving our goals, then we have to think differently and do something differently. So what does that entail? I call it the success equation, which means that our current thoughts today, combined with our current behaviors today, equal our future results. So in order to change your current situation, you have to change your thought process. You have to change your activities to equal future results. And I'm going to give you what that change. I'm going to tell you the thoughts and the behaviors that we can start today that will help us get on the fast track towards achieving our goals, not just achieving them, but being fulfilled once you do. And before we dive into the process, I'm going to discuss one more thing which is really important. It's called the gap. Because let's say that you think about one of your goals today. Let's say your goal is to write a book, for example, or to start a business, or any of those things. Those are things that I've done. That's why I love talking to people, because I don't speak from theory. I've actually done these things so I could tell you from a real world perspective. Let's say your goal is to write a book, right? And the completion of that book is at the finish line. But then we have the reality of where we are today, okay? And that's called the gap, the completion of the book, and then we have our current situation today. And just like when we're running the marathon or anything else, our ability to be successful is based on a couple things. How we prepare before we ever get to the starting line. How we mentally prepare and how we behaviorally prepare before we even get to the starting line. It also depends on how effective we are at running the race during the course of the race. Once you start writing the book, it also depends on, do you commit to a writing regimen or schedule? Do you allow negativity to get in the way of you writing the book? Do you allow things like scheduling issues or the fear of people not liking your book to get in the way of you writing the book? Or do you keep going and persevering in order to get to the end of the race? Or hopefully you didn't just complete the book, but you feel really good about it. So the question is, think about two of your goals that you have right now, two things that you really want to accomplish. And you can, if you're driving, just think about it. But if you're in a position where you can write and take some notes, just write them down. It could be anything you want to do. And then think about, what is the gap right now? How prepared are you to start pursuing this goal? Have you done the right research? Have you thought about it? Have you planned it out? Have you done these things before we ever get to the starting line? And then are we ready to really get going with the pursuit of this goal? So think about two of your goals as we go through the actual process. So the Kaizen Way philosophy teaches a three-step approach to stop setting goals and to start achieving them. So once again, it's a three-step process to stop setting goals in order to start achieving them. So what are these steps? And please take copious notes and feel free to email questions and ask questions, and Jeff will definitely answer them. So number one is called the relentless pursuit of excellence. And the first sub-bullet reads, change goal to excellence. Why do I say that? And in my teachings, I hardly ever even use the word goal, because at the end of the day, the word goal by definition is the end point. It's the terminal point of a race. It's when things end. But as we all know, once you achieve something, it's not when things end.
Actually, the beginning.
It's the beginning of something. And that's what we don't realize. Sort of like when you interview for a job and you want to get this job at this company, and you get hired. Now, is that the end of it? Do they say, oh, Jeff, you got hired. You're great. We're going to keep paying you and promoting you every year.
Coast from here. Coast
No.
from here. I may come in next week or not.
Right. That's when the real work begins. When a person says, I want to become a sales manager, and people tell me this, I want to get promoted to sales manager. Okay, then they get that promotion as sales manager, but guess what? There's more responsibility, more travel. You don't see your family as much. You, instead of having ability to have friends that you work with, now you are the manager, so people see you differently, and it's very lonely in that position for some people if they don't adopt the program that I'm going to share with you. So the reason why I want us to stop using goals is because when you look at the definition of excellence, these are virtues, these are values, these are what you are trying to become. And the best story I can share with you about this is when I was about to graduate from Whittier College, and I had an internship at Allergan Pharmaceuticals, and they gave me a full-time position to be a sales rep in Los Angeles. So it was a really big deal. And my mentor at the time asked me, Jamar, who do you want to be? And I said, well, I want to make a lot of money, get promoted as quickly as possible, and be the CEO of Allergan one day. She said, no, who do you want to be? And I thought she really wasn't paying attention. I said, I want to make a lot of money, get promoted as quickly as possible, and be the CEO of Allergan one day. Those are my goals. She said, I'm not asking you what you want to do. I'm asking you who you want to become. Because in life, you're going to do a lot of different things. There will be some things that you thought that you do that you thought you would never do in your life. There are some times you set a goal for yourself and you pursue it and you don't reach that goal, but then something much better comes out of it. But she said the thing that always remains the same is you are the person doing it. So look at your goals in life and your ambitions as not achieving something, but who do you want to become? It's like saying, I want to be a father. Well, okay, that's great. I mean, that's not that difficult to do. But what type of father do you want to be? What type of legacy do you want to leave for your children? What type of family person do you want to be? And when you start to look at your goals in your life that way, you have a lot more drive to actually pursue it. And so the second sub-bullet is called the why. And I said we're going to come back to this word because the why is all about defining your idea of excellence to live according to your purpose and who you want to become and be relentless about that every single day. When my goals were to make money and get promoted and be the CEO of Allergan, I struggled miserably. Miserably. I almost got fired for it. But when I changed that to, I want to be known as somebody who truly took care of his customers, somebody who truly cared about the patients that he was responsible for in his territory, somebody that left a legacy of, I made the company a better place because I was there. The people I interacted with felt good about Jamar Brown being with them and interacting with them. When that was my focus and I forgot about the numbers and the sales and the results, instant success, and overnight I went from 93 out of 98 to number 1 in the country, the same person that was told he was burned out and not effective. And that's why I believe in this program so much. And that's why having a why around your goals is so important. So let me turn it to all of you out there. What is the why in your life? For those 2 goals that you wrote down, what is the purpose? Why are you pursuing them? Why are they important? Who are you really trying to who are they going to benefit? Who are you going to become as a person? And these are things that if we had an entire day to go through this program, we really dive into that. So for now, it's just food for thought since we only have a limited time together. So, and the bottom quote is extremely important, Jeff, and that is, if your purpose or your why is bigger than the work required, you will most likely achieve your aspirations. It's worth saying again. If your why or your purpose is bigger than the work required, then you will most likely achieve your aspirations. Let's go back to the gym example. The reason why I wasn't going to the gym, even though it was my goal, is because it wasn't important enough. I didn't have a big enough why. There are people out there right now who want to quit smoking or stop taking drugs and all these things. I know people that have stopped smoking and stopped taking drugs cold turkey. You know why?
It was of great importance. Maybe they wanted to be there for their children. They didn't want to die early. They wanted to be there for their family. They wanted to improve maybe on the job. Could be any number of those reasons.
Exactly. That's exactly right, because their purpose was bigger than the work required. What's bigger than saying, I want to be around to see my children graduate from college? Mm-hmm. I want to be able to hold my grandkids in my arms.
That's huge.
That's a big reason to move forward with your life and to go after what you're pursuing. So that's the very first step. What is the why in your life? What is the purpose around your goals? And is that purpose big enough? Okay? The next number 2 around this process is to eliminate wasteful thoughts and behaviors. And what I said earlier was, I don't believe, and my company doesn't believe, that we need to do a lot more things. We need to give you 30 steps on how to set goals and achieve them. We need to sort of understand what is the reason why we're not achieving our goals, which we went through that process, to list our goals again and write down the purpose behind them. And then we need to start to eliminate what is getting in the way of us moving forward. And we all understand wasteful behaviors. For example, let's say you want to write a book, and a wasteful behavior would be that you never set aside time to actually write the book. So what do? You change that to actually setting aside time. Let's say you want to go to the gym, but your thought process is, well, I can push it off to tomorrow, and you procrastinate. That's a wasteful thought. So if you look at your goals, what are some of the wasteful thoughts and behaviors you have around your goals? And you have to understand something. That is, every thought or action either takes you closer to or further away from what you're trying to achieve in your life. Every thought or action either takes you closer to or further away from what you're trying to achieve in your life. If we go back to the idea of a marathon, every step you take, if you have the right mindset and the right behaviors, you're moving forward. But the second you have thoughts that are counterproductive to running the race effectively, you're going backwards. So look at the goal you have, which is that, end point of the race, and look at your starting position. And along the way, you're going to have obstacles and trials and tribulations. But if you eliminate the wasteful thoughts and behaviors that come into picture, you will keep moving forward regardless of what can potentially get in the way. And the image that I love, which I think is such a telling story, and that is the image on the left is a block of ice. And when I was on a Carnival cruise a couple of years ago, they had this guy that brought up this big block of ice, had this ice carving thing. And he's going away at the ice, and he's carving this thing, and it ended up being the logo for Carnival Cruise Lines. So I walked up to him, I said, wow, that's amazing that you were able to create that out of a block of ice. You know what he told me? He said, I didn't create anything, I just took away what shouldn't be there. And for some of us, we have so much clutter in our lives. So many of these little, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. People aren't going to like it. What if I fail? What if I succeed? What if all these what ifs and all these if, ands, buts, or maybes? And if we began to eliminate those out of our lives, what you're left with are the thoughts and behaviors that actually are conducive to your success. So for the goals that we've written out so far, just list out what are 2 wasteful thoughts you have about your goals. What are 2 wasteful behaviors you've had about your goals? And then stop doing them. Let's stop making rocket science. Stop doing what's not working. And what you're left with is what? What should be there? What does work? Okay?
Now, for some people, that's easier said than done. There are a lot of people, and look, every once in a while, I find myself hopping over to ESPN website when I probably should be doing something else. Got to check the scores, or there's a story that I need to read there. So, there are some distractions that become habits that are pretty hard to break. So you're saying just stop doing those things that are preventing you from being able to take the next step.
Well, yes, there are habits, and people say, well, how do you break a habit? It takes 30 days. I say, no, it doesn't. It's all in the mind. If you think it's going to take 30 days, guess what, Jeff? It'll probably take 30 days.
30 days.
If you have a big enough purpose in your life for doing something, you will make the change instantly. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, that every day you wake up with this inspired outlook about life. Some days you're going to not want to get up. Some days you're not going to want to do it. And it's on those days when you go back to your purpose, they continue to drive you. They continue to move you forward. Okay? So that's one way to deal with those, the start stops, or the things that come into our mindsets that can get in the way of us moving forward towards our goals.
A couple of key points. First of all, I want to go ahead and mention real quickly that if you've got any questions, you can go ahead and write those in. I do have a question from one of our channels, from Terry, and we'll get to that here in just a second. Also, too, if you're watching this studio cast and maybe you have your own business, or you're interested in what Jamar is doing right here, you can do it too. And all you have to do is visit us at studiocastpros.com, and you can learn a little bit more. There's, by the way, a contact form right there on the home page of our screen below the video there that tells you a little bit about what we are and at Studio Cast Pros. Go ahead and complete that, submit that, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible on that. For Jamar, please send in your questions whenever you'd like to. If you have problems getting your questions in for any reason, you can send us a quick email to info@SoCalSports.com. SOCALCEO.com. That's SOCALCEO.com. A question came in from Terry Jamar. It may be a little bit, maybe we're getting this a little bit quickly, but since we're at kind of a point when we stop, Terry says, Jamar, I hear what you're saying, but I've had the goal of launching a new division of my company for the last 3 years. I still believe that this has great potential, but I feel like I am pouring too much time and effort into this. At what point is it okay to just throw in the towel?
Well, I think there has to be some reality around the situation. But before we look at what we, should or should not do, we have to look at, and this is part of the business side of what I do, we have to look at what is the reality of our current business situation. Is the environment right for what I'm trying to do? Do I have the right support in my organization for what I'm trying to do? Have I ran all the numbers and done all the statistics to see if this really is right for the business? What is my purpose for doing it? And those are all things you have to ask yourself. So it's not a question that I can just answer directly and say, this is a time you should give up. I think you have to do all of your due diligence. You have to really look at, does it make sense for the business? Does it make sense for the company? Does it make sense for your career? Does it make sense for all these things? And I think on top of that, you have to look at, if it does happen, then what? Then what do we become as a business unit, as a company? And then sometimes it's important to take a step back and analyze the situation to see if it really is the right time. And I think at the end of the day, only the individual, once they've done all those things, if you've done all those things, all the due diligence, and it still doesn't feel right, then maybe it is time to maybe take a step back and maybe look at a different approach. But I'd love to, please email me, info@thekaizenway.com. Give me a call. I'd love to talk to you more about it offline, because that's a great question I'm sure a lot of people had in their minds, and I'd love to be able to answer it in a lot more depth and detail based on your own particular situation, so I can give you a more direct answer.
You've got a series coming up, Jamar, coming up your summer sales program series.
Correct.
Let's take just a quick time out just to talk a little bit about that and what people can expect, what that entails.
Okay, it's called the Sales Success Summer Series. And for anyone out there that is in sales, this is an ideal program for you. It's a 6-week program that's going to kick off July 10th, right here through StudioCast Pros, live 30-minute shows every week. The first one is going to be based on my book, What's Your Sales Story?, which is really understanding how to move from your current sales situation to having phenomenal success based on the principles that I learned as a sales professional, winning all the sales awards that I've won, as well as working with top-level salespeople in numerous companies. The second part is called Selling in Color, and it's a personality-based program based on selling associated with a person's personality type. And that's one of the most fun programs that we do. People love it, and I guarantee that after the program, you'll be able to communicate with anyone more effectively. And the last piece is the Kaizen Way of Sales Excellence, which is the actual Kaizen Way process that will take any person from where their current sales results are to achieving phenomenal success as a salesperson. And so that kicks off July 10th. It's live right now on Eventbrite. We'll make sure that our viewers get a link to sign up, and we would love to have everyone involved, because if you have any goals around being successful in sales or exceeding your current level of success, then please sign up for that program, and I guarantee it'll help you.
And we have people who would probably be very interested in finding out if they could go ahead and register for that as quickly as possible. You'll be able to find a link on StudioCastPros.com on our upcoming StudioCast page, so please take a look at that. Karina, by the way, also probably interested in that sales series that you have coming up too. She is viewing our stream right now, and she says, I am responsible for getting donations for a 501c3. How do I sell this?
Karina, well, and I thank you, Karina, for being a viewer, and we had some offline discussions, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you after the program and talking more about your business. Getting donations for a 503c. Well, if you really want to, that's more of a sales question.
Right.
And I don't want to, because I actually spoke at the Chamber of Commerce at 6:30 this morning, so it's kind of been a long day, but it's been a phenomenal day, and I did a whole series on sales. And I'll give you one tidbit, because I don't want to get too far off topic, but I do want to make sure that the viewers feel like they get their questions answered. So Karina, a couple of things I want to leave you with. One is, in the changing sales environment, people are now looking at a word called purpose over product. A lot of people have 501(c)(3)s. A lot of people have nonprofits. A lot of people are asking for money. I get requests for money every single day from nonprofits. And oftentimes it's about their product. I want to, have you give me money for this, donate money for that. What I tell people is speak to your purpose. What is the purpose of your organization? What is it going to mean for someone's life? Mm-hmm. And sell it that way. Don't just sell your product, sell your purpose. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to really get to know, when you're talking to anyone, what is their story? If you look at the reasons why, YouTube and Facebook are so popular, is because people nowadays want to communicate. They want their story to be heard. And a lot of times as salespeople, we spend all of our time telling our own story. How great I am, how great my product is. And what I tell people to do is to understand the other person's story. Sell to their story. Understand who they are and what they're all about. Understand how your 501(c) or your product can help them in their life. So those are a couple of things that hopefully will help Karina, and definitely feel free to connect with me offline. So now, getting back to the program, the first two steps, just to recap, are to figure out the why around your goals. What is your purpose around the goals that you set for yourself? The second thing is to figure out what is getting in the way of your goal attainment. What are the wasteful thoughts and wasteful behaviors? And begin to eliminate those based on your purpose being bigger than the work required to achieve your goals. And the third step, which is the part where we start to sort of put together the exact plan for achieving them, because we've cleared space in our minds, we've cleared space in our psyche around our goals. We understand how we've gotten to this point in the first place. Now what do? We don't start to launch this whole new 10-step program. We start very small. And I love the picture on the left, which is a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, because it's a step-by-step process. Everything has a process. And that's why I think it was Laura that asked a question earlier about, I've tried and tried and tried, and I still am not getting to where I want to get to. Sometimes the sequence is not right, because you have to start with the basics and move up. And sometimes we start with the big audacious goal. And when you always focus on the big picture, Jeff, guess what?
You're overwhelmed.
You're overwhelmed, and you are constantly thinking about what's not working, right? What's not right. If you're constantly thinking about what you haven't achieved, then you're thinking about what's not working. But when you look at the basic steps required, and you go on a path and you take steps, you'll get there faster. So the continuous improvement step, which is the third step of the process, is to focus on improvement every day as opposed to the big outcome. Make small steps every single day that can lead to big results. So let's talk about how that actually manifests itself and how it looks. So the first thing is, what small change can you make and commit to? That word is commitment to right now that will lead towards a big result. What step can you take today? Let's say you want to write a book. What step can you take today? It may not be writing the book. It may be studying some books that you like, that you can relate to. And you say, I want to write a book like that. And you read those books and see what they're doing. You want to open a restaurant. You look at let's talk to some restaurant owners. Let's figure out what they're doing. It could be a research piece. You want to launch a new division in your company. Maybe do a little bit more due diligence around what is required for that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to visualize the why constantly, because as we know, when we go down a path, we know that things come up, unforeseen events, challenges, naysayers, negative people, and all these things that constantly challenge us. And it's funny, I tell people that tell me, oh, Jamar, I'm dealing with so much negativity around me. I want to pursue this, but so many people are telling me I can't. You know what I tell them, Jeff? I say congratulations, because the only reason why you get these obstacles in your life is because what? Because you're actually doing something. Right. So that is a good thing when you experience these things, because that means you're actually moving forward. And hopefully this program will help you to move forward and not get distracted by some of the naysayers and the obstacles that come into play.
And you're lifting them up in the process by doing that, of course, as you well know. I mean, when you're trying to give them some kind of positive reassurance in that they're going about things the right way.
Exactly. And that's where the why comes in. Your purpose is bigger than the naysayers, the obstacles, and you keep moving forward. And this is an important point. What trigger can you have to help keep wasteful thoughts and behaviors out of your mind? Because they're going to come into view all the time. And the more that you try to accomplish, the more you're going to have them come into view. one of my main triggers is to help me sort of get grounded, to get back on track, is a quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer from his book, The Power of Intention, which is a phenomenal book I recommend all of you read. And it is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I remember when I had to sit down with the editor of my first book, What's Your Sales Story? And I hated that process. I mean, I literally could not stand it. I wanted her to do everything, but she said, no, Jamar, you need to see what I'm doing. And it took us a long time at first because I kept resisting the process. But then I thought about Wayne Dyer's quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I thought about the fact that if I can change my thought process, and instead of loathing the process, learn from the process and take ownership of the fact that this is my book. And if I really understand what she's doing, then maybe I could spend less money next time on an editor because I am more prepared and I know more about the process. And once I had that shift in mindset, it was a great process. I enjoyed it and I loved it tremendously. And when I wrote my next book, I was that much more prepared in terms of writing the book. So when you have a trigger in your mind, things can change. This point is really important, and that is to celebrate successes and challenges along the way. Celebrate successes and challenges along the way. When you have small steps along the way that you've committed to, and you accomplish those small steps, celebrate that. Feel good about yourself. Instead of thinking what you haven't done, think about what you have done, because you have done some things already. The other part is, when you have challenges along the way, instead of resisting the challenges, welcome the challenges, because they're teaching you something about your path. They're teaching you something about the process. So celebrate the successes and celebrate the challenges along the way. So those are the 3 steps in the process. Have a why around your goals, eliminate wasteful thoughts and behaviors, and then have a continuous improvement step-by-step process. And now we're going to dive into the last part of our program, which is 4 ways to conquer the most detrimental aspect to us achieving our goals, which is fear. So were there any questions, Jeff, before we move forward?
I don't have anything else that's come in, at least not right now, so we can go ahead and move on. But I do want to go ahead and encourage people. We've got a couple of different channels you can go ahead and message in on. If you're watching Ustream, you can go ahead and send us your comments there. You can also send us comments to info@socalceo.com if you want any questions you have whatsoever, comments about this program for Jamar.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now let's talk about the big 4-letter word that gets in the way of our success, and that word is fear. And what are 4 ways to conquer fear? And I will tell you that fear was a big part of my inachievement of goals. Or is that even a word?
It is now.
This is live. My lack of goal attainment, let's put it that way. Let's rephrase that. I was afraid. I was afraid of what people might think about me if I failed. I was afraid of, what if I'm not worthy? What if I'm not good enough? What if it doesn't work? And for the things that were mentioned about a new division in the company, or going out to get people to support a 501(c), there's some fear involved. What if it doesn't work? And that could be one of the reasons why certain things have not moved forward. So if fear, when you really sit down and are honest with yourself, if fear is a big part of your life, then let's spend some time right now in terms of how to conquer fear. I'm going to give you 4 things you can do. And I love this graphic because it kind of goes through the step-by-step process. It starts at the bottom by saying, which step are you at today? I won't do it, I can't do it, I want to do it, how do I do it? All the way up to someone telling you that you did it. And that's what we're trying to do by conquering fear. So the first point about fear is called preparation. That's one way to conquer fear. And there's a great quote by Wayne Gretzky, the great hockey player, which is, and this is the second half of the quote. The first half of the quote is, most people skate to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck is going to be. And it's all about preparation. That's what I was trying to tell Laura about this division. Preparation, taking the time to understand what is really going to go into the attainment of this goal. Because the bigger the goal or the ambition you have, the more work that's required to actually achieve it. Muhammad Ali had a very similar quote, which he said, most fighters try to win in the ring. I won all my fights outside of the ring. I was so prepared before I ever stepped into the ring that by the time I got in there, I had already one. The presentation I had this morning at the Chamber of Commerce was a 20-minute presentation. I spent at least 2.5 hours working on it and practicing it so that when I walked in there, I was ready to go. So if you are prepared and you know your material and you've studied and you've done all your due diligence, then that's going to make you more confident when you begin to do something. So the second thing is make your purpose bigger than your fear. And I love this image of my daughter. The one on the left was when she was first born. The one on the right is when she was 5 years old. And the reason why I have this picture is because my first book took me 7 years to write, which is what I mentioned earlier, What's Your Sales Story. The second book, You're Ugly, took me 12 hours to write. And I spent the first 6 years thinking about how I was going to write this book and all the challenges and all the reasons why and who was going to hate it and who was going to, how it was going to get published and all these things. And every time I would start to write the book, I was filled with this fear of not being able to do it and people not liking it. Then one day I looked up and realized it was Halloween 2007. And I realized that my daughter, that I've been thinking about writing this book before she was born, and here she is at 5 years old, and I'm still thinking about writing the book. And in an instant, I went from how I am going to write the book to why. What is my purpose? And it was to leave a legacy for my child. It was to help other salespeople that struggled like I struggled. And because I was able to get through it and become successful, how can I help them live lives of joy and fulfillment and success as opposed to angst and letdown and fear because they don't have somebody that can help them break through it. And that's what the first book I wrote, What's Your Sales Story, is all about. And that's why after 6 years of thinking about the book and having fear in my mind, after I conquered my fear and thought about my purpose, within a year's period of time, I had the book written, had an audio CD in the market, and I was traveling around the world speaking to companies and organizations about the book, and I launched my own company. So that's the power of conquering fear by making your purpose bigger than your fear. The next thing is there is no such thing as failure. The only failure is not trying, because when you try something and it doesn't work out, at least you've learned something. You learned about yourself. You learn maybe, hey, you know what, this isn't what I want to do in the first place. And that's a great thing to learn early on than later on in life. And so this image here has two roads. The road on the right is the path well-traveled, the path of normalcy, which most people go down. And the path on the left is, not well paved. And you think, if I go down this path, I don't know if it's going to work out. But the ironic thing is whether you look at the path on the left or the path on the right, when you really look at the path on the right, initially it wasn't a path in the first place. Someone had to take a step and start the road down that path. So the only fear should be a fear of not trying, not a fear of failure, because at least you'll learn something. And the last thing is, which speaks to the third point a little bit, which is fear of not trying should be bigger than your fear of failure. And let me leave you with this. If you have a goal or something in mind that you have thought about for months, weeks, years, and you haven't done anything about it, you know how that feels. You feel let down, you feel angst, you feel regret, you feel all these negative emotions. Then you have things that you have achieved. Maybe you wanted to start your own business, or you wanted to do something that you did achieve, and how do you feel? Joyful, you feel great, you feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders. Even if you went down a path and tried something that maybe didn't work out, at least there's some relief because you know that you at least uncover some things about yourself and you learn something. So when I talk to audiences all over the country, I say, if you know how you feel when you don't even attempt your goal, you know how you feel bad about yourself, you know how you feel if you actually achieve it or even try and you feel at least good about yourself, why would you ever choose to not feel good about yourself? It is a choice. And hopefully the things that we've discussed today will help provide you with the guidelines and the toolbox to help you when you do make that choice. This is a process that will help you start achieving your goals by stop setting your goals.
And it's an interesting place to kind of pause right here for a minute, because we got a message in from Steve S., who says our organization has a key initiative we are charged with executing before the end of the year. We have had some roadblocks that have caused some letdowns among some of our key team members to move this initiative forward. How can I get these people back on track to kind of buy into what we're doing so I can get them re-energized?
Steve, a lot of these questions they're first of all, I appreciate the question, and that's one of the things I talked about this morning at the Chamber of Commerce, and certainly would love to speak with you offline. And please, please, please sign up for the Sales Success Summer Series, because we're going to dive a lot into that. Steve, let me give you a quick tidbit. One of the things, if you read books like Conscious Capitalism Firms of Endearment, The Happiness Advantage, and these are all books I recommend, especially as a leader in your organization, that you read, because they talk about the changing work environment. They talk about how employees today are changing, and the net of it is that they are now looking for more of a purpose at work. Back in the olden days, people were expected to stay at companies for 10, 20, 30 years. I spent 13 years at Allergan. I could have stayed there for another 25 years, but I had a different path that I was called to do. But the point is, nowadays, people are leaving companies after 2 years, and they don't have the same faith in organizations. And with all the reorgs and restructuring and all these things, I've been a part of companies that are worth $2 billion and small startup companies. So I've seen the whole gamut of this. At the end of the day, the best advice I can give you, Steve, right now in this short span of time is to help your employees understand how their own personal goals and ambitions outside of work can be fulfilled by being engaged at work. And oftentimes, organizations talk about what's good for the organization, what's good for the stakeholders, what's good for the manager, what's good for the CEO. And the employees nowadays are saying, Jeff, what's in it for me? I no longer just drink the Kool-Aid and follow everything that I'm told. I want more out of life. This is my own Kool-Aid. What sugar can you add to it to make it sweeter for me at your company? And that's exactly how some frontline workers think. And it makes perfect sense. And so if you could take the time to understand what are the needs of the people on your team, what are they really trying to accomplish in life? And it could be they want to buy a home, they want to send their children to college, they want to be more efficient at work so they could get home to watch their son or daughter play a sport. These are the things that people are really thinking about. And we have to, as leaders, be willing to understand that and to create an environment where it's okay for them to express that, because if we can help them understand how to engage in the corporation, and when the corporation wins, they get out of it what they want to get out of it, then both sides win. So that's the best advice I can give, and I have worked with sales teams that were experiencing a lot of this, low morale, high turnover, and I went in and helped them either develop their culture, or help the managers understand how to get their employees more engaged by having their personal ambitions plugged into the organization's ambitions. And I've seen turnarounds, literally a company I worked with a couple of years ago, it's a $40 million increase in sales for this one sales team at this major healthcare company. So the numbers speak to the fact that this process does help Steve deal with what you're dealing with, Steve.
We've got about 5 minutes, Jamar. You've got the summer sales program. Let's talk about that again here as we can.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. A lot of the questions that came in today were sales questions,
related. Yeah, exactly.
which is phenomenal, and that's why I put together this Sales Success Summer Series, because I got so many requests to put this information online. Let's have some interaction. I speak here and speak there, but when it's online and on the web, we can have people from all over the country get involved. And so I want to once again invite everyone that's on this call to take part, and invite your coworkers, invite your employees to be a part of it, because they'll learn a tremendous amount about what is getting in the way of their sales success. How do we communicate better with our customers, with our employees? How do we implement a process of selling that is not, once again, a whole other sales system, but it's really maximizing who the people are on your team to make them inspired salespeople to create phenomenal results. And I have so much information to share and so much knowledge that, and once again, it's not theory, because I can speak to the book I wrote, What's Your Sales Story, which I've been Salesperson of the Year, I've been Sales Manager of the Year at some of the largest companies in the world, and started my own business and had a tremendous amount of success. And so let me share that with all of you. Let's learn together. Let's have some fun doing it. And once again, it's going to start July 10th. For 30 minutes each week for a 6-week period, 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. We'll send you some information to your email, but certainly please tune into that program. I guarantee your sales results are going to go through the roof.
Real quickly, if people want to get in touch with you personally between now and then, what can they do?
Please email me, info@thekaizenway.com. That's Kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N. And also you can call me directly at 949-371-9077. Once again, 949-371-9077. And I really look forward to speaking with each one of you. And once again, I appreciate you taking the time to be on this program today. We all have busy lives, and hopefully you took at least 1 or 2 nuggets that will change your process of achieving your goals today.
Don't forget Jamar's next live StudioCast scheduled to stream on July 10th. That's coming up 2 weeks from today. And don't forget also, too, that you can register for that event, and you can do that by visiting our upcoming StudioCast page at studiocastpros.com. Today's StudioCast will be archived, so you can watch that there later, coming up at studiocastpros.com as well. And there are going to be YouTube channels, and we'll try to kind of keep you abreast of where you can find all this stuff. While you're there, don't forget you can see a few of the other upcoming StudioCasts also. We have lined up in the coming weeks, including Dwight Cromie from StudioCast Pros. He's the CEO. He's going to present the StudioCast marketing process revealed. Small business owners and marketing managers in any industry will learn in detail about the details and advantages your business can glean from a complete StudioCast marketing campaign. Also coming up, Mobile Mary Barnett, CEO of Brilliant Mobile Marketing, will present her StudioCast on how to use social media for your business effectively in order to reach your customers on the go, because it's a mobile society we live in, you see, with everybody's iPhones, iPads, personal devices. I have an Android, but that's my personal preference. Hosting your own StudioCast is easy as hosting a plain old vanilla webcast, and it is also affordable. To learn more about that, you can call 951-781-8624 to talk to your friendly StudioCast Pros representative. You can also send us an email to info@studiocastpros.com. You can also stop by our website and complete the form on the homepage to reach us. Once again, that's studiocastpros.com. We hope you've enjoyed this event. My name is Jeff Allen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.